In 2018, while pregnant with her daughter Isabela, Isabel underwent a procedure known as cerclage, where the uterus is tied off to prevent premature birth due to complications. Isabel received general anesthesia, where she had a near-death experience, the famous NDE, in which she woke up in a place similar to Earth, but with visible planets in the sky, all of them inhabited. Hello, I'm Richard, and it's a pleasure to welcome you here to the afterlife we live in. I hope you feel at home and absorb the lesson from this story we're about to tell. Isabel Lima, a resident of South Carolina, United States, had an intense experience on April 14, 2018. She was pregnant with her daughter Isabela and was facing a high-risk pregnancy due to past health issues. She had already lost her first child due to premature birth. Doctors opted to perform a cerclage. Isabel had a history of premature births, and her body reacted alarmingly during pregnancy, with complications in the kidneys, liver, pancreas, and irregular heartbeats. Isabel's pregnancy was marked by frequent hospital visits, with the constant risk of premature labor. The surgery would be a measure to protect both Isabel and her daughter Isabela during this high-risk pregnancy. The procedure was scheduled when Isabel was 14 weeks pregnant, and she was already taking medication to control her heart rate. On the day of the procedure, the medical team decided to fully sedate her due to concerns about her heart health. She was informed that the surgery would last about 15 minutes, and that if all went well, she would be back in her room around 12:15. She was taken to the operating room while still connected to the heart monitor. Before being sedated, she remembers passing through the door of the room and seeing the anesthesiologist applying the medication into her vein. Shortly after, she passed out and found herself in a near-death experience. Isabel described the NDE as a feeling of peace and beauty, finding herself in an environment similar to Earth, with grasslands, mountains, and a clear, colorful sky. What was until then a novelty for her was seeing so clearly since she is nearsighted. She felt like she was floating and noticed that someone was holding her hand, but she didn't see her own body. She described being able to float towards the mountains she saw on the horizon, with a very high peak, and above them she saw several planets, all in similar shades, feeling an unusual calm and normality during this experience. Strangely, she felt like she was in a familiar place. Although she was aware of herself, she didn't remember her pregnancy, the surgical procedure, or her husband. Deciding to move towards the planets because something internally told her that these places were inhabitable. At this moment, by her side, Isabel noticed the presence of a female being, with curly brown hair and light eyes, whose face was gentle and delicate. She felt a profound peace when looking at this being. The being beside her smiled at Isabel with an expression of peace that deeply enveloped her. It was then that she heard a voice calling her name from afar.
Isabela.
As she turned her attention back to the being beside her, she realized that this delicately beautiful being was holding her hand. It was when she saw her own hand for the first time during the experience. Turning her attention back to who was beside her, she calmly heard the voice saying,
"It's okay, you can go back."
And quickly Isabel found herself back in her physical body. She described the sensation of returning to the body as heavy and painful, feeling intense weight and chest pain, a difficult transition until she returned 100% to her physical consciousness. Later, when she could speak, a nurse informed her that the procedure had been successful, but they had to intubate her, which explained the pain and difficulty breathing. Taken back to the room where she saw the concern in her husband, she noticed that something different from the plan had happened. The reality is that the doctors faced many complications during the pregnancy, including threats of premature birth, cardiac problems, liver attacks, and even gestational diabetes. Isabel was hospitalized several times, being constantly monitored throughout the process. She and her husband faced moments of great tension and fear, but they managed to overcome the challenges, with daughter Isabela being born at 37 weeks of gestation and completely healthy.